Off stage with Carmen McRae on a very cold night. Carmen, it's good to see you again. We seem to cross each other's paths every now and then in this past 20-year period.
Yes, right. Nice to be here.
Delightful reception for you on a very cold night.
Yes, it was nice.
Somehow I got to thinking about some things, and I don't know whether we ought to touch on them or not, but one of the things that I'm always impressed with when I see you is your magnificent sense of timing and the way the rhythm section works with you and the way things seem to float. How long did it take to get what is a very difficult artistry going? How long did it take to be able to suspend things and time things the way you do?
Well, that's a very hard question to answer because, nothing, when you start any craft at all, it develops and develops and develops, and you really don't know, I guess, what the end product is going to be until you really try things, and whether, I don't know if I had any specific reason for doing whatever it is the way that I do it, other than that's just how it's coming out now. You know what I'm saying? It evolves from working this long and going to different places and meeting different people. It all has an effect on you. And that's the only answer that I can come up to think of. I know that I like my ballads extremely slow, most of them. And so I don't know. It's just a thing that it makes me comfortable. It's a comfortable way for me to perform.
Carmen, in your mind and in your thinking about your art over a long period of time, had you ever considered playing in the brass section or the reed section?
No. I never considered myself an instrument, really. I've only just done what seems natural to me, So I never really thought. I love any instrument, I guess my favorite instrument is a trumpet, which at one time or other I've tried to blow through and could never even get a sound out of it. But I've never wanted to be an instrument or be in a section or anything like that.
Carmen, I think about the messages you sing about, the lyrics, and how you tell these stories. I don't know if I've ever heard you read I'm Glad There Is You quite the way you read it tonight, or Autumn Nocturne, which you delivered with that range that it tests. But the story, the timing, and the lyric to you is almost parallel to the music, isn't it?
Oh, I would think, no, I think it's above parallel to the music for me, because if I don't really, if I'm not too happy with the melodic part of a tune, I don't mean just dislike it completely, but if I like the lyric is first, and if I like the lyric and I find that the melody isn't up to the standard as far as I'm concerned to the lyric, I will do it anyway and try to change little things. Since I have that liberty of being dubbed a jazz singer, I have the liberty of changing the melody, and that's what I will do. But lyrics are first and foremost important to me.
This business of improvisation is a special art all its own. What's its reward for you?
Well, it gives me a chance, I guess, to get my frustrations out, and if I've done something that people enjoy, and I feel that I've done a good job through them, and that's very rewarding. Just pleasing the audience is the most rewarding thing in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it was a standing ovation tonight, and it's usually standing ovation in San Francisco, and I can remember in New York when you had a few standing ovations too. But the scene today, of course, precludes that a jazz communicator has very many places to play. What are you discovering about the 1970s and the place of an improvisational artist like yourself?
Well, there's nothing different about 1970s than it was in the 60s or the 50s, other than you have more songs. There's a variety, more of a variety of songs today because of the contemporary scene. And I like taking some of those tunes, which I like very much, and doing them my way, which maybe makes it come out jazz or whatever. But I find that it's not as, it's exciting to me, let me say, to be able to do different type of songs instead of the same things that I was doing, 20 years ago. It makes it much more interesting.
Are you finding as much good material as you did, say, 20 years ago today?
Oh, absolutely. It's just, absolutely. In fact, you still can go back and find some good standards that I haven't done, or maybe never have been done, that were sort of hidden in the background. There's a lot of songs that written by Cole Porter and Rogers and Hart and people like that haven't been overdone, And it's fun sometimes going back and doing something maybe that I did myself 20 years ago that hasn't been done, or I haven't done, or I haven't heard it done by anyone in a while. So it's very interesting. I just love it because there's always something good that comes to you if you sit and wait long enough for it.
Certainly your recitals and your programs are the very essence of what we call programming. Do you have any rules about it?
No, that's just an instinct, that I'm putting the right song in the right position in order to, it's like telling a story, or because every story has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an ending, which is usually the climax. And so I try to build my shows that way, if I possibly can. Sometimes I miss the mark, but that's what I have in mind when I'm putting a show together.
How about the accompaniment, that aspect? What's your value system there? How do you choose people?
Well, I don't know. They have to, I don't know. It has to be, there's three people that have to be compatible to me and I to them. And they have to be, of the best caliber that I can find at that time, or I guess. But I refuse to, if I can't find someone, and I know that I have a job to go to, I just will have to cancel, because I refuse to go somewhere with just somebody taking a musician for the sake of having a trio and making a gig, because it's not fair to the people who have come to hear me if I don't try to have the very best accompaniment, because that makes me feel good. That makes me do my best if I know I have the best behind me.
Let me tread on a thin line with you here for just a moment. The artist has enough responsibility fulfilling the program, the showmanship, and the presentation to the audience. You as an artist have discovered, though, that it's more of a business, and it's a tough business. What are the challenges for the artist, especially you? Certainly the recording medium is the medium of exposure, and the problems there are manifold. Distribution, exposure, royalties, advances, and all that. What's the climate these days?
It's the same climate. What makes you think the climate has changed? It hasn't. You still have to worry about that, because record companies come and they go so quickly today. Not like, years ago when there was Decca and there was Columbia and there was whatever there was, Victor. Those were, when you said that you was with one of those companies, you didn't stop to even think about not getting royalties, not getting an advance, not getting enough exposure. But today, it's a different story. They have so many record companies that I, for one, have never heard of, that are around today and may be gone tomorrow, along with whatever residuals you might have coming, So it's really, it's just that today, instead of it having 4 or 5 companies, you've got 55. you know. And so there's more of them that you have to worry about than you did in the old days. That's all.
Well, certainly your catalog is spread over everything from the majors like Decca to reissues under the Bethlehem banner to mainstream and now on to.
Versatile. There you are. See, you don't even know what I'm talking about when I say versatile, right?
I know that you're versatile.
No, but I don't know. You know, I can't say anything about the company because I really don't know too much about it, other than I have recorded for them, and I think an album will be out. It should be out the end of this month, January, and that's all I can tell you about them.
Carmen McRae, when you were growing up, who were you listening to when you were very young? Among singers.
Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong was when I was in my 12, 13 years old. That was and right after, not long after that, Billie Holiday, because she to me, of course, still is the epitome of it all as far as jazz, someone who can sing jazz. She had a fantastic rhythm about her, within her, that came out when she was with the great musicians. You know, the people that she enjoyed playing with. I think she was just fantastic. But those are the people who that's all I can really remember. Ethel Waters I liked. I remembered. I loved her voice. But that's about the only people that I can really think of offhand, singers.
You gave me your impressions of Billie Holiday. Touch on Louis for a moment.
Well, Louis pops to me when I had an aunt who used to have a Victrola and mostly, not all, but a lot of Louis Armstrong records. And he was another one. He just fascinated me because his timing was like Billie's. A certain something that's indefinable, that's innate in them that you just can't go and learn somewhere, And I thought he was just the hippest thing I had ever heard, and he came out with songs that you didn't think he would even think about doing, and did them his way and did them exceptionally well. But he was, and of course I loved his trumpet playing. That also I just couldn't believe him, But after a while, after I started getting into the business, before I got in the business, I met Pops, and he was just one of the most delightful human beings I'd ever met. And we, of course, after I got in the business, of course, we were, still stayed rather friends. And I got to see a lot of him when I could, and it was always a ball. Always a ball.
Carmen, you're branching off into a new career, and that career involves television. And you were mentioning a little earlier that at this time in your life, you find yourself before the camera, and you're going to appear in a new series, a renewal and extension of Roots.
It's an extension of Roots, yes. And I'm looking forward to seeing it because I really wanted to see what and how I did in this particular. It was not too big a part now, but I think that for the first time, being called on to do acting and to be in Roots, I think is phenomenal.
You play the role of what? Whom?
Of a madam, and I don't remember my name. Isn't that funny? In that particular series, but I played a madam, and it was the house that Alex Haley came to as a young man to sort of get his virginity together. or not to get it together, or to leave it somewhere or something, because he was getting ready to be married to a young lady, and of course he wanted to know what to do, I suppose, after the marriage. So he was brought to my brothel by his commanding, whoever was his chief or something, I think, and brought him to this house of ill repute. And I got him I think he got straight there. I'm not sure.
Carmen, I'm sure that as far as the audience is concerned, they will find you delightful on screen, television, film or just one-on-one in stage performance, whether it be in Cannes or San Francisco or Minneapolis.
Well, thank you very, very much. You're very sweet.
It's always good to see you through the years and to know what the maturity and artistry is in all of its essential forms. You personify that to me.
Thank you very, very much.